your goal is to build an aesthetic body to attract more girls and to be respected by other men, you clicked on the right video. I've gone through a pretty crazy body transformation myself, so I'll teach you everything you need to know. There's a lot of BS out there on this topic, and what I find unbelievable is that most guys tell you to train the only muscle you shouldn't train. Think about it, there's only one muscle you shouldn't train, and these people are yet telling you to emphasize it in your training. This is why I'm making this no BS guide on how to build an aesthetic body. And I don't want to waste your time like all these clowns, so let's get right into it. To achieve an aesthetic body, you need 3 things: having enough muscle, having the right proportions, and having low body fat. Let's start off with having enough muscle. This one's pretty obvious. If you don't have enough muscle, you won't look aesthetic. You'll just look skinny. You don't want too much muscle either. But if you stay natural, you're never gonna get to the point where more muscle will make you look less aesthetic. So you should always focus on gaining more muscle. Now, how to gain muscle? I've already made a video covering how to build muscle, but here are some of the basics. You need to train for hypertrophy, either by going to the gym and lifting weights or by doing calisthenics. The gym is always gonna be more effective, but you can still build a solid amount of muscle by doing calisthenics. You need to train consistently. Aim to train between 3 and 6 days per week. Training less than 3 days a week is gonna build you muscle, of course, but not at a fast enough rate. On the other hand, training 7 days per week is gonna fatigue your muscles too much. So always have at least 1 rest day per week. You should also never train the same muscle on consecutive days. You also need to train hard. The only way to gain muscle is by making your brain understand that it needs to grow the muscle. So get to failure, or at least close to failure, in every single set.
You have to achieve failure. You have to take it that far.
You should focus on progressive overload as well. This is gradually increasing the difficulty of an exercise by either adding weight, adding reps, or doing a more challenging variation. If you don't progressively overload, your muscles will eventually stop growing, since you'll be able to perform the exercise without much effort. Lastly, you also need to optimize your diet for gaining muscle. There's 2 things you should focus on: eating enough protein and eating in a calorie surplus. Eat around 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And if you don't already know what a calorie surplus is, go and search it up on the internet after watching this video. That's the basics of gaining muscle. If you want more information, watch the video I mentioned before. But let's continue with having low body fat. If you're not lean enough, your muscles won't look nearly as good. Look at this picture of a bodybuilder. At first glance, you might think he's a beast, but in reality, he's got a ton of muscle under that layer of body fat. This is why having low body fat is so important, because it can make the difference between looking aesthetic and looking just fat. Being lean will also reveal your abs, which is one of the most attractive muscles. The only caveat of being lean is that if you want to gain muscle, you're gonna have to gain some body fat as well. Don't get me wrong, you can also gain muscle while being lean by main gaining, but it's not nearly as effective as bulking and then cutting. So unless you have a big reason to stay lean during the entire year, you should bulk to gain muscle faster. But be smart about it. Go ahead and bulk in the winter and cut before the summer so you're shredded when you're actually gonna take your shirt off. Being lean is a must, but don't obsess over it until you've packed enough muscle. Now let's dive into having the right proportions. This is what differentiates a bodybuilder from an aesthetic and Greek god-like physique. You need to focus on the V shape, on the V taper. That's what really makes a man attractive. It's like the hourglass shape in women. Now, how do we get this V shape? It's pretty simple. You need wide shoulders, a wide back, and a slim waist. To get wide shoulders, you need to focus on the side delts. This is what will give you that wide and thick look even when you have a shirt on. They even make you look like a Chad when walking. To train your side delts, there's only one exercise you need to do: lateral raises. So spam those to get wide shoulders. You also need a wide back to continue the V shape. In particular, you need big lats that pop out from the sides and that are visible from the front. Lats can be the difference between having a T shape and having a V shape. So make sure to train your lats. The best exercises are pull-ups for the calisthenics guys and lat pull-downs and pullovers for the people with a gym membership. Lastly, you need a thin waist to achieve the final touch of the V-taper. In order to have a slim waist, you just need two things: low enough body fat, which I talked about before, and untrained obliques. Yeah, you heard right. Untrained obliques. Most clowns out there tell you that it's super important to train your obliques, but this is how a person with developed obliques looks like. Yeah, crazy, right? Don't follow the advice online and never, I mean never train your obliques. And this is all you need to have an aesthetic body. Remember to watch this video on how to gain muscle. So see you there. Good luck.